Okay.
You know, so it's like, it's really rare to find that level of commitment of care to yourself. And all of these girls were just on board with it. You know, they were like, of course they are, because it makes sense and you feel better and you feel healthier and you're like, you know, representing something that is separate from the regular world of toxicity and negligence to one's own well-being.
Okay. You mentioned that during your, I've used kind of December of 2020 as like a date just because of the incident that we're here for, but
yeah, we'll get there.
How long did you spend time with the group even beyond that date?
Oh gosh, I'm still friends with Z now. I was in Shayla's parents' house for a month in March of earlier this year. Like,
okay,
you
so
know,
for the last 4 years, you've maintained constant communication and contact and friendship with them? Okay.
Most definitely, and we've all been very hurt by this, and we've, you know, worked through this together and as the best we can.
All right.
You know.
So you mentioned that they didn't consume any drugs or alcohol. Are you referring to sort of illicit drugs or just all drugs? What do you mean by the term drugs?
Anything that is psychotropic in nature.
Okay.
Anything that's like no pharmaceuticals, no alcohol, no drugs of any kind.
Okay.
What do you mean? What drugs are there?
I guess what I'm going to get into is sort of like modern medicine or treatment of ailments or like healing practices. Like, did they have sort of didn't adopt the traditional worldview of like the exercise of medicine?
Yeah, none of these girls really had very many ailments.
Okay.
So, you know, I know, but you mean like ibuprofen?
Sure.
Definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah. I prescribe to these systems myself. Like, I don't take those kinds of drugs either.
All right. And was the whole group sort of like-minded in that way?
They're all for it, yeah.
Okay.
100%.
So were there sort of healing practices or things that you all did for your bodies that were not traditional?
I mean, like what?
Like drinking your own urine?
Sure.
Okay.
I've been drinking my urine daily for 4 years.
Okay. And can you tell me, like, obviously that's not traditional in a broad
Well, it was in the past when people understood their bodies.
Okay.
Now we've become so deranged and deluded and essentially live in a psychotic society of mental illness and addiction to pharmaceuticals and alcohol and toxic food that we have become so diluted and separate from what it means to be healthy on the deepest and most fundamental cellular levels that we would, you know, describe an attempt to achieve homeostasis in the body. Yeah, so urine therapy is non-traditional in today's modern terms of, you know, our deranged society, toxic society, but it's actually written about by medical doctors. It's written about by people all over the world. There's like, I mean, if you go online and look up urine therapy, there's like 15 books available written by allopathic medicine doctors, homeopathic medicine doctors, written by shamans and gurus from the East, written about by regular everyday people who have healed themselves, who claim to have healed themselves of things such as cancer by drinking their urine.
Okay.
And it tells all about, if you want to do your research, you know, urine is from the word orin, meaning light. And basically it's like when you go to an oncologist and they take a urine sample instead of a blood sample, that's because the urine is more telling of the malfunctions in your body. And so allopathic, homeopathic, and people from all types of different natures write about, you know, the photonic realignment of your DNA through urine therapy. So urine has like discarded nutrients in it, but those nutrients have passed through your kidney and bladder and are now contained within orin, the light production of your body. And it needs to be understood, and this is just like very common programming in the world, that urine is waste, and it's literally an antiseptic. It's the opposite of waste. Your stool is your waste. Your urine is an antiseptic. It's a true sterilant, and it's antibacterial. That's why Boy Scouts 101, when you have an injury or you have a snake bite or a jellyfish sting or something like that, and you use your urine to sterilize and to act as an antiseptic and act as an antibacterial immediately on open wounds in the flesh. So you could think about this as like the same type of thing is happening inside of your body. We're talking about like antibacterial, you know.
How long have you been engaging in that practice as like a, do you consider it a healing practice or like a health routine?
Well, to me, it was a healing practice at first. And I would say that the first year, it took me probably like 6 months to a year. But actually, I would say maybe a little less than that. I think for some individuals, they would probably, you know, that would be a healing practice for at least a year. But I was considerably healthier and more fit than the average individual.
Okay.
Like I said, I've been filtering my water, all the fluoride and chlorine out of my water for like 20 years since I was in high school.
Okay.
You know, like I started these practices very young. I just realized that, you know, it's like, would you like to have toxic waste and heavy metals in your water, or should we filter these out? You know, I mean, it doesn't really take a genius to figure this out. Like, we should be taking these steps to heal ourselves and and not only heal ourselves, but as a health practice. Mm-hmm. So I'd say, like, for the average individual, I think their first year of urine therapy would be more of like a healing, but I use it to maintain my body still to this day.
And did you start urine therapy practice before you met Z?
No, actually, but I didn't learn about it from Z. I learned about it from Peggy.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I started drinking my urine, and after about a month, I was Z never even mentioned that.
Okay.
But after I had been drinking my urine for about a month or something, I was like mentioning it to Z, and he's like, "Oh yeah," he's like, "Yeah, we do that too."
Okay.
You know, so I actually know a couple dozen individuals who drink their urine regularly.
A couple dozen? Okay.
Yeah, sure do.
And as far as Z and Kuwani and Shalig and Gami, did they all participate in urine therapy also?
As far as I know.
Okay. Did you ever know of anybody be forced to participate in that practice?
No, I didn't, actually. All the individuals that I've met, or it's kind of like one of those things that's like, oh, I didn't even know about that. You know, like I didn't know until Peggy told me. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing my research online, and it turns out there's a lot more people that do it than, like, there's this guy who I really respect online. His name's Troy Casey. He's the certified health nut. He's like an influencer on Instagram. And so he and like several other individuals, they really promote like urine therapy. They do it all the time. Okay. You know, so it's like, it's a little more mainstream than, you know, you would think. And unless you know about it, and then you hear about it, and it's like, oh, this is a lot more mainstream than I thought.
Mm-hmm. You already kind of just spoke about the sort of group's collective views on medicine, or traditional medicine.
Sure.
Were there any other types of healing practices to either like center themselves or strengthen their mind or their body that you were aware of?
Gosh, I mean, I personally use all kinds of, like, I use Rife machines. I've watched people have miraculous healings from Rife machines.
And what is that?
A Rife machine is a frequency generator developed by Royal Raymond Rife in the early 1930s at the University of San Diego, Southern California. And this man found that, and you can do your research on this, anybody who's interested, this man found that when exposed to certain that everything has a frequency and vibration, because that's the nature of reality. It's just an atomic structure. And so to understand the fundamentals of science, which we're all taught in school, but it just doesn't seem to sink in to a lot of people, you know, that everything that we're experiencing right now, the air is mostly nitrogen and the matter is it's mostly carbon. So we have a atomic pixelated holograph reality, and these things have been written about from, you know, the 1927 Solvay Convention in Physics and beyond, even to Michael Talbot and Carl Sagan, who write about the nature of reality. And so everything has a frequency and vibration, including illnesses inside of the body. And so this man, Royal Raymond Rife, was able to find that these illnesses, specifically tumors and things like MS and certain other illnesses have a certain vibrational frequency, and when exposed to certain frequencies, now we're talking about particles and waves, which is, you know, another foundational cornerstone of the understanding of science, quantum physics, and reality. When you have the particulate matter of a tumor inside of your body, it may be exposed to the wavelengths of certain frequency vibrations, and it destroys tumors. I've watched some pretty miraculous healings. People being on their deathbed to walking around cancer-free.
Were those things that?
No, that's just me.
Okay.
You know, I'm just introducing this to, you know, to the world.
Okay.
Here, right now.
Let me ask you about, and I mean, I've got to just keep
but
it.
Z knows about Z knows about Rife machines too.
Okay.
You know, so I'm just curious, like, which ones?
Let me ask a more direct question.
Yeah, please.
Are you aware of them using any type of sensory deprivation or dark therapy?
Dark therapy, yeah, from the teachings of Montauk Chia.
Okay. Can you tell me about that?
Okay, so I did dark therapy in September of 2020. I actually did it after I left Connecticut. I had like a small bungalow style house, and so I taped off the bedroom and the bathroom, and I blacked out all the windows, and I retreated into into a meditative place for 432 hours.
Okay. And was meditation or sensory deprivation or dark therapy, was that something that Z and the three women also subscribed to and participated
Z
in?
did dark therapy like 10 years ago.
Okay.
You know, he did dark therapy, but at the time when I met them, none of the women had done dark therapy.
Okay.
Gamliana was the first one to do it, and she did it for 2 weeks at my house in November of 2020.
Okay.
She was the only one to have done that at that point.
What brought about her doing that? Did she want to do that, or was she
Absolutely.
made to do that?
No, definitely not.
Okay,
Like, Z never made them do anything like that. Like,
Okay.
I mean, it's like they volunteered because they're interested in the same type of achievement. I know Shayla did the dark therapy for a very long time.
Okay.
She went into the dark for like 2 months.
Okay.
Yeah, and will speak highly of it, you know, but she was seeking that. She was seeking, I mean, Z didn't say, go be in the dark, you know, it's like, that's not the thing.
And
you know?
in practice of dark therapy or sensory deprivation, do you come out of it whenever you feel ready, or is it something that like you're locked in even if you don't want to do it?
No, what you're asking is like a personal question about the individual who's embarking on their quest for enlightenment. You know, so you're asking me to, you know, speak to the nature of another individual's personal. I set a time. I was like, I'm going in for 432 hours, and when that time was up, I came out.
Okay. And
You know?
from your observations of the rest of the group, was that personal to them? Did they make choices about whether they wanted to do it and how long they wanted to do it?
Sure.
Okay.
But it's also, you know, it's like, you know, I was raised in my household, and I know that this culture and society in the modern world has deviated a long